2 o'clock in the Romanian time is here. I propose that we start. Dear panelists, thank you very much for joining this session. Dear members of the audience, either right now online or later seeing us in the registration, welcome and prepare for a feast. Because we have here with us great people with a lot of experience from various parts of the world, a lot of diversity here from many continents and from many different backgrounds. And what we're going to talk about would be the international business development, but not of any kind, of international business development which goes a bit further than just your, let's say, usual practice of looking for the neighboring country or for the traditional markets. A business development that goes to cross the oceans, that goes to places where few people have been before, at least few people from your market. And it's mostly, I believe, about exploration, about looking for partnerships, for opportunities in places where you could also discover, you could discover people, you could discover culture. And when it comes to what it takes, and why should you go there, I think it takes a bit of, let's say, a bit of a playful heart and a bit of risk-taking, but also an intention to explore, to go forward, to discover yourself and to discover the others. And we will talk about also the opportunity and the necessity of going beyond the comfort zone in business and going beyond the ocean to discover the new markets. We'll talk also about the changes that were brought by the current pandemics. Is there a change at all? Further on, we would like to have a dialogue. So although I have a lot of prepared questions, I would prefer that we have a very free flow of ideas in between the panelists. And dear audience, please feel free and prepared to ask questions. I will look over the chat and I will pick up in various moments questions from you. And please also be so kind as, if you have specific questions for a certain panelist, say it specifically, say it clearly so that we can pick it up and address it correctly. I will start by doing a round of the table and inviting each of our panelists to present themselves and to present what they've been doing and what are they doing or what is driving them. And I will start with Andrei Kelemen, which is the executive manager of Cluj IT cluster. It is our host. I would like you, Andrei, to tell us a bit about the mission of the cluster. How has it come into form, and what is its driving force? And I will do that not only for the people who already know about it, but also for the future audience of the registered material who might not know yet. Andrei, please.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you for inviting me in this panel. I'm very glad to be here among you. With some of you, I am already friends. I know you for some time. I am the executive director or the CEO of Cluj IT cluster. Indeed, we are an organization, a grassroots organization that has been established in 2012. It's a business initiative. As the name says, it started here in Cluj with a number of approximately 20 companies at that time. And since then, we have been constantly growing to the point that we are now 70 companies and 9 universities as active members in our organization. I don't want to be modest here. In my opinion, at this hour in Romania, we are probably the largest innovation ecosystem in the IT industry. We are trying to work with every single member of our organization, try to find ways in which we can cooperate and create new opportunities for our members. The mission, or why we started this organization, is very, very simple. We are looking, and it has to do with, in some way, or in many ways actually, with the topic of our conversation here today. As you all know, or most of you know, the IT industry in Cluj and in Romania is still very largely based on an outsourcing business model, or as IT services, how we call it. And while this is going very, very well, and it will go for some while, that's not the question here. We are looking at new ways where we can improve, diversify, and secure sustainability for our businesses. And one of the ways in which this is achievable in our own understanding is internationalization, creating partnerships and business opportunities in other countries and other continents, of course. So that's very, very briefly about us. We have been doing a lot of work on international level. We are now one of the, let's say, organizations that in Europe is well known for what we stand for. We are working and cooperating with a number of organizations from France, Germany, almost every country in the EU. And we are now looking more and more actively to enter new partnerships with organizations from different other continents like Africa, South America, more recently. So briefly, this is about us.
Thank you very much, Andrei, and we will talk a bit later as well about the specific actions that Cluj IT is doing and its members are doing in regard of the exploration, the international expansion of business. I will move to Daniel. Daniel is as business or as profession, and not from a few days, but for years, he's building bridges in between Europe and Africa. How is that? What does it mean to build bridges among two continents? What have you done, and what are you actually doing right now? Daniel.
Thank you very much, Daniel. Thank you very much for the invitation to speak here, and greetings to my fellow panelists and to all the audience that is looking at us right now. So I will try to summarize a little bit my story. So I started 13 years ago. I started to work in the Romanian Telecom Authority in ANCOM. For the Romanians, it's very familiar, I think. And I was representing Romania in the International Telecommunications Union. So at that early stage in my career, I was very, let's say, surprised to see how many Africans inside the UN are speaking Romanian. And I realized how important was actually we had a history with Africa, building a history. So after some years, I was actually engaged in a lot of international negotiations. I was the youngest country negotiator of a big international treaty on internet governance, was called WITI. And since then, actually, the European Commission invited me to work as a second national expert. So I started working in the European Commission in the department responsible for digital economy. And what I realized inside the European Commission is that out of 90 billion euros that the EU spends in Africa, mostly, the majority of the money is going to building roads, building bridges, building, I don't know, a lot of other infrastructure projects. However, we're not going to digitalization, and digitalization was such a big part of what is going on in Africa right now, and we'll speak that a little bit down the road. So what I took on board of is to create a policy. It's like I worked for 4 years in creating this policy inside the European Commission. It's called the Digital for Development Policy, and it's based on 4 main pillars of action, let's say. We have access to affordable broadband connectivity, investing in digital skills, supporting digital innovators and startups inside Africa, and e-services. When we speak about e-services, we go from e-government to agtech to cleantech to e-health, so on and so forth. So from that period, like 5-7 years ago, where we had only 300 million euros that the EU was investing in digitalization in Africa, in the next budget of the European Union, we are expecting now to have between 5 and 7 billion euros that will go to digital projects in Africa. So this is a big opportunity for everybody that want to engage on the African continent. My last, well, I left the Commission after 7 years in February, but my last, let's say, task that I had before leaving the Commission was to develop a geopolitical analysis, because we have to look at this, you know, it's like at the digital sector from a geopolitical point of view. And we know what is happening right now with 5G and so on and so forth. And then what I realized is that even if Europe is the biggest supporter of Africa in terms of development, we were not creating the same impact as China was doing, with a lot of, you know, it's like different type of instruments as the US was doing. And of course, there is a geopolitical battleground right now in Africa, because digitalization is not used only to, let's say, increase or create livelihoods in Africa, but is used to control data. And that is an important factor why the European Union, and we'll speak about later that as well. Since February, I opened my own consulting company, and what I'm doing right now, I'm building bridges. I'm currently working for the German government to add a fifth pillar to the European policy, is data, is because, you know, that is a key element of the digitalization, is like how data is managed, how data is processed, and all the privacy concerns that are around data. And I am building for the UN Capital Development Fund. I'm the course director. I'm developing digital transformation course for African policymakers. So this is my road right now, till now, related to Africa. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Daniel. And of course, we'll dive much deeper into the African perspective and opportunity later into the discussion. Now I will move to Marco. Marco is coming from South America, from Chile. He's the executive director of the largest association of the IT industry in Chile, Chiletec. I would like to invite you, Marco, to tell us more about Chiletec, its goal, its mission, its ambitions. What are you doing? What are you going to do? Marco, please.
Well, first of all, thank you very, very much, Daniel, for your invitation. It's really a pleasure that the collaboration work that we have been developing last months, it's now giving fruits. So thank you very much first for this participation. For us, it's good morning. Actually, it's 8 o'clock in the morning. That's part of the beautiful things that separate us, but also give us opportunities. So maybe later I will talk about that. Well, in Chile, we are from South America. First of all, we're a small country. We're just 19 million people. And one of the problems that we have is that we have a very fragmented IT and technological industry here in Chile. So for that reason, really, Chiletec is the largest national chamber of Chilean technological companies, but we have just to make more development. We represent now more than 200 companies, basically companies that come from the software field. But now we are integrating more companies, especially from the corporate sector and for more technological areas. We are supporting now more than 50 startups that have support from government finance, especially for new technological entrepreneurs. We are also partner of Corfo. Corfo is the Chilean Economic Development Agency, and we are developing the most important projects, especially for human capital development, and also for other new business that are defined as strategical initiatives for our country. We also share with the Chilean government our international brand, CH1L3, Chile Digital Country. That is the local effort to make the internationalization of our companies. We will talk about that later. And our work is especially based in collaboration tables for specific topics like government, fintech, health, IoT, legal. We have a very new legal table that we are working with our different judgment areas from the country, and also for cybersecurity. We're exploring international markets, and in that effort is that the contact with Romania has been for us amazing. We have terrific results, and we have we're very interested in the development of our activities. And finally, our dream. Chile is known around the world because our copper, our wine, our fruits. Actually, today is a very special day in my country because if you remember, 10 years ago, we had 33 miners trapped and they were rescued this day, 10 years ago. But usually Chile is known for our basic primary industries, copper, mining, fruits. Our dream in Chiletec is that we, as Chile, we don't want to be known again for breaking rocks and picking up fruits. What we would like, our ambition, is that the IT and tech industry in Chile be as relevant as something that you have gained and you have done in Romania. That's basically our dream in Chiletec.
Thank you very much, Marco. And as you've mentioned that Chile is, you've said, not such a big country at 19 million people. Actually, the same is with Romania. We have exactly the same amount of people. And I see that we are also sharing the ambition to grow larger than just our size and to move internationally. And we'll see further on the road during this talk what other things do we share, and I'm sure there are many. I will move to Smaranda. You are professionally an intercultural consultant or intercultural specialist, and you know very well China. Tell us more about how you came to develop this knowledge about the intercultural aspects and about China in particular, and what are you actually doing? Smaranda.
Okay, thank you very much, Daniel. I'm happy to be here today with everybody. In a few short words, because we're going to have a lot of opportunities to discuss further. Right now I have 3 jobs and they all involve China. I have been working for the last 11 years for a Chinese governmental organization as a project manager, where all of my colleagues are Chinese. I have also been responsible for the last 11 years for the cooperation with Chinese institutions, Chinese universities, for Babeș-Bolyai University, which is one of the partners in Cluj Innovation Days. And in this respect, I've been helping to build academic bridges between Cluj, Romania, and Chinese partners. Previous to my working in the 2 companies, I've studied for 2 years in Taiwan. And so basically Asia has been part of my background for the last 13 years. In my interactions with the colleagues that I've had, with the businesses that I've gotten to work with, firstly, I have made a tremendous amount of mistakes. And I have also had the chance to see many mistakes being made, and a lot of them come from not understanding the cultural differences. I have had the wonderful opportunity over the years to have Chinese colleagues, Chinese counterparts that I could go to whenever something felt wrong, whenever something felt like a mistake. I could always count on somebody to explain why. And besides this work part, my academic background also involves China. I have a PhD in international economics with a focus on Chinese investment in the European Union. So I've also been teaching at several universities, Chinese economy and intercultural communication courses. So all my experience made me realize about 6 years ago what I really want to do when I grow up, which is use my expertise in intercultural communication with the application on Chinese culture, use my skills as a teacher and a trainer to help develop consultancy services and programs for the companies that generally work with Chinese partners. So I've been doing this for the last 6 years as well. I have my own consultancy company, which has a focus on cross-cultural communication and improving the understanding of different cultures. I want to help companies understand the culture in a way that they can just focus on their tasks. I think for more details, we'll see as how the conversation develops further. These are just a few words about me. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Smaranda. And indeed, we are very curious to know more about the mistakes that you should not do when you go to China or in general to other different cultures, but also about the things that you should do. And hopefully we'll hear about that later. I will move to Filip. Filip has a lot of experience in building and getting involved and managing very important development projects in Southeast Europe and more recently in Central Asia. So please, Filip, please tell us what drives you on this path, what motivates you, and what are the projects that were the most dear to you? You're muted, Filip.
Right. Thank you very much, Daniel. Andrei, hi, good to see you. I've known Andrei for a few years. First of all, thank you to the Cluj IT cluster for inviting me. I have to say, very professional, and besides the good companies and the good organization, it's a beautiful city. So if somebody hasn't visited, please go. You'll do business and you'll have an enjoyable time in that beautiful city. What drives me? I don't know. I'm a little crazy. So what drives me is connecting different countries together, working towards a joint goal. I work for USAID projects mostly, and I started right after the wars in ex-Yugoslavia. I have a background in ex-Yugoslavia, Bulgaria, and Greece. We started right after that, kind of putting the pieces back together from the separation around 97. In about beginning of 2000s, I started working with the IT sector from Bulgaria on to ex-Yugoslavia, initially with Romania as well through Bucharest in a larger, I think, older association, which we didn't do it as successfully as we're doing it with Cluj now. So and then expanded from there. We moved from kind of Southeast Europe to the Caucasus, to the South Caucasus, to Armenia and Georgia. Then we moved also to include Moldova, Ukraine, and eventually to the Baltics as well. So I've always been the proponent or supporter of these countries collaborating with each other to be more powerful and to have a better kind of weight to talk to the Western European countries, US or Asia in general. Now I have moved last year, end of last year, before all this craziness, I moved to Central Asia. I'm getting introduced to the Central Asian IT market, from the startups to the mature IT companies. I believe it has a lot of potential, and I think our kind of Eastern European brothers and sisters have a very good connection to Central Asia from the history. A lot of, not me, a lot of us know Russian, so that's a plus as well. And I think, you know, we talked this in our other call, we have, the benefit of helping each other in the target markets that we are strong at. Apparently, Romania has a good connection to Chile, so there's something there. Other countries can have connections to something else, and I think that's something that we need to build on. So my background is basically in USAID. I have about 20 years of experience with the IT sector in the region, and what drives me is connecting these countries and working together towards a bigger goal of successful companies and successful economies. Thanks.
Great, Filip. So looking forward then to help you connect things and connect countries, because I believe this is the goal for all of us. And I would move now to Andrei and start a bit more in-depth topics, a little more strategic level. Andrei, as a representative of the Romanian IT industry, you know well, and everybody should know that the Romanian industry is right now quite strong in relative terms of number. So we are generating about 7% of the GDP of the country, close to 20% of its export, and we have over 12,000 companies and over 120,000 employees in the field. And close to 80% of everything that you're doing is going to export. So from the perspective, let's say the perspective of the Romanian IT industry, what follows? What follows in terms of international development? Where should we go and how should we do it? Andrei.
I just unmuted myself. Okay. Daniel, thanks for the questions. Very good indeed. It's a good starting point. I'm very curious also about the perspective of others, because otherwise, among us, Daniel, we have been discussing this many times. But what I want to say here is that we see internationalization as a, let's say, double sense or two sense process. It started with us being the ones who are contacted. By us, I mean us as an industry, being contacted by companies and organizations from abroad for the services, for the IT services that we are able to provide. And this was a very good learning process for us. We came in contact with established organizations, with corporations, and we were like a sponge. We started learning a lot of things very fast in order to be able to actually deliver the services that we were required. And I think this was a tremendous advantage for us. And now this process needs to be reversed, in our opinion. Now we have already accumulated knowledge. We know how to deal internationally, but we still have to learn some things. And this is where we are, as a cluster organization, we are trying to contribute, to help. There are many ways in which we do this, but for the moment and for the sake of the discussion, I will only highlight one thing. We are acting as a platform where we are trying to bring companies, especially small and medium-sized companies, interested in this strategic move to move internationally. And it's not an easy feat. It's not something that we can do overnight, but nevertheless, there is a growing number of companies who are interested, more and more interested in going into other markets. Here we have Marco, and Marco has said already that in just a couple of months, we have made tremendous progress. And we are now starting to put into contact companies. Just last week, we signed a memorandum of understanding with Chiletec, and we are already preparing a matchmaking session between companies from Cluj and with companies from Chile. I'm sure it's going to be an interesting process that we can learn a lot from and improve in the coming years. From my perspective, this is the right thing. This is what we should do. We should help companies. We should assist companies when they are really interested in markets such as South America. We don't see this as a short-term approach. Everything we do it has a long-term view. And this relationship with Chile, because I started talking about this, is such an approach. It's such a strategy, or an expression of that strategy. We see this a long-term relationship where companies and us as organization, as representative business associations, have the possibility to actually build something sustainable.
Andrei, and on that I will add, since I'm also part of the Romanian IT industry and part of the cluster as well, that we as a cluster are pushing forward the idea of having the internationalization of the Romanian IT industry as a national priority, and put highly on the national strategy at the level of the government, and hopefully at some point helped by our government. As we see models in other countries, and Daniel knows for sure because he's met in Africa with the Estonians, for example, who put their IT industry in the forefront of the strategy of exportation of the country. And this is one of the things that we should do, us together as an industry, and us together as an industry together with our government, hopefully for a much better cooperation from now on. I will move now to Marco and ask him in the strategic view of the IT industry from Chile. How do you see the internationalization of the IT companies? Is it in between, let's say, the necessity and the opportunity? How do you view it? And is it that the pandemics has changed anything, maybe accelerating it or maybe hindering this process? Marco, please.
Well, something that maybe we have learned in the last 10 years around the world, and this is also my personal experience working in big international tech corporations, that the successful mix is a mix between very deep technical capabilities and a good offering, but also with a very strong business model and also commercial capabilities. Why do I make this introduction? Because in Latin America, we are a growing software industry and a growing IT industry. And we are still focused in solving the internal requirements from our different industries. There are some specific topics that we are very advanced. For example, in Chile, we are one of the most advanced countries around the world in our tax management using internet. We are leaders, for example, in, let me show that, for example, in 2000, 20 years ago, 98% of the tax declarations were paid over internet in Chile 20 years ago, okay? And we are one of the most advanced countries in the usage of electronic invoicing. But reality is that we're still a growing industry. And one of the problems that we have, I don't want to talk about problems, one of the restrictions that we have is that we're small countries. So the real possibility, for example, to develop an unicorn, those companies of $1 billion of market value, we are small markets, is so difficult. So our approach and the strategy is basically to be strong in some specific topic and trying to expand that specific topic to other countries. In that strategy, our focus, at least for Chilean software companies, is to explore the United States and the Asian Pacific Alliance countries, Peru, Colombia, and Mexico. Those are basically the most or the biggest markets in Chile, especially for Romanian companies, are Colombia, Mexico, Chile, and Peru. Peru is growing very fast right now. Brazil is a giant. It's a very big market, but be careful because it's isolated, because they talk Portuguese. All the other Latin American companies will speak Spanish, so be careful about that. Because if you want to come into Latin America, you have to have two very different strategies for Brazil and for the rest of Latin America. We are moving now from tailor-made solutions to software as a service and packages, and that's one of the challenges that we have. But and finally, for your question, pandemic also has stressed our industry because local demand also is shrinking. So the only way that we see that we make the growth of the industry is trying to open new markets and also to have advantage of those specific capabilities and competitive advantage that you have developed in some specific industries. I'm sorry to be so long maybe with my answer, but I don't know, it's okay.
It's very good.
May I ask him a question?
Please.
You said free flowing, so let me ask a question. Marco, in general, I've only been to Colombia briefly a long time ago, and usually, if you have the connection to the United States, Central America, and stuff like this, but usually the companies connect to Spain mostly. So how is the English language for the youth? Is it better? Because I had some issues in Colombia with the English language. I had to try with my very little Spanish that I know.
Absolutely, not just for language. Language is a barrier, absolutely. But in the Latin American business culture, networking is so important. So I may be wrong, absolutely wrong, but usually it's better in all Latin American countries to have a local partner that manage the cultural differences, that manages the payment, that manages the contract. There are some countries that are more informal than others, and that's something that you may learn with your local partner. Our recommendation is to have a local partner in every Latin American country, at least with very strong networking, to be strong in some specific markets, and that speaks English also. English, it's a problem in a lot of different countries. You may find English-spoken people, but our recommendation is that will be your support for the internal operation. In general, companies that try to open alone a market in Latin America, it's not a successful effort. I don't know if it answers your question.
Yes. Thank you. I think in general you're right for vice versa. I think it's the same in Eastern Europe. In most countries, probably you need. There are some countries you can have one representative for a bunch of them, ex-Yugoslavia, for example, Baltics maybe. But in general, you should have local partners, and I think partnerships are developed that way the best. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much, Filip, for accelerating the evolution of the dialogue in a more free-flowing spirit. So I will just want to remind all the panelists that while you're not speaking yourself, please mute your microphone. Otherwise, we have a bit of microphony. All right. And in the spirit of the question that Filip put regarding the South America, how to deal with this difference in the culture and the language, I would like to go to Smaranda, because for a while I'll be looking at China. It's a tremendously big well, not only country, but industry, economy, and everything. And I see it so opaque, so impenetrable. So I have no clue, actually. I have no clue how to get there, how to start there. And Smaranda, you've told me last week something about Goshi, some principle that you need to know when you get there. So how is it the cultural aspect of going into China? What you have to do in order to start there?
Yeah, thank you, Daniel. I did mention about the concept of Guanxi, and this comes back to what Filip and Marco were saying about having local partners, or in China in particular, as one of the key challenges in entering the Chinese market is the fact that the Chinese market is heavily regulated by the Chinese government. The Chinese government that has this year in May, they had the latest version of the industries that are encouraged for investment. So there are, for example, the petrochemical industry that is forbidden for foreign companies to invest in China. So there are areas that are heavily regulated by the Chinese government. And another key challenge when entering the Chinese market is you cannot see China as a whole. China is not homogeneous from many standpoints, from looking at the key economic indicators, looking at social indicators, even the legal system can differ from region to region in China. So when thinking about China and how to invest, you have to take into consideration where you go in China. There are advantages and disadvantages on having looking at tier 1 cities. They are the most developed areas where you can have a lot more support in opening a business, but each area comes with challenges and opportunities. Depending on the sector that you're interested in, you can look in different areas in different tier cities. But coming back to the question of culture, one important aspect is Guanxi, and let me see if I can share the screen just to show maybe what Guanxi is. I hope it works, and I hope you can see that. Maybe you can confirm that it's okay?
I don't see it yet, but you have the screen. So
yeah.
Sharing screen, you see it.
Yeah, let's see. If not, that's okay. Okay, never mind. It's okay. So basically, there's several concepts that are quite important for Chinese culture to take into consideration. But just to understand why it's important to understand them is China in Chinese is called Zhongguo. That's the name of the country that Chinese people use. And Zhong means middle and Guo is country. That means China, from the perspective of the Chinese people, is the country in the center of the world. So that informs a quite Sinocentric view that the Chinese have of the world. And besides this way of looking at the world, there's this really important concept of mianzi, or face. That means when you're interacting with a Chinese partner, it's quite difficult to read their expression. It's quite difficult, especially to receive negative answers, and we can get into this later if it's interesting and we have time to do that. But so it's hard to get negative feedback from Chinese partners, and they're quite Sinocentric, and the cultural differences are really high. So this makes it important for you to understand the culture and have maybe a partner that can help you in that. And one key element is Guanxi. Guanxi is networking. Maybe it would be translated as relationships and networking, but it's 1,000 times more complex than the concept that we have, we properly understand in networking. Without proper channels to get from one point to the other, it's almost impossible to have any serious business in China. So what you need to do is you need to find a proper partner in China, and that partner has to have guanxi, has to have strong connections at governmental level, has to have strong connections with other businesses and with the stakeholders, that it gives you the foot that you need to enter the Chinese market. We can go into more details later if interesting.
Totally, Smaranda, and hopefully we will. And quite interesting point you made, that the Chinese market is not actually one market, but it's a multitude of markets. So you're not entering China. You're entering, if you're identifying a part of it and finding the guanxi, the connections that allow you to grow somewhere. And in this respect of a market which might be many markets, I'm going to Daniel and ask him about Africa. I would go on two directions. On one hand, you've mentioned about the clear interest of the European Commission for Africa and the fact that we'll see 7 billion euros pushed to African digitalization. And you've worked so much with the European Union and bridging with the African Union, and you know Africa. And I would like to ask you, on one hand, why is that Europe and European Commission and European Union is so interested in Africa? How is that? And what's that perspective? And on the other, can we actually talk about one market there, or are there 54 markets, or how is that? How is it that you approach when you're thinking about the African market? Daniel.
Thank you, Daniel. So, we have to understand this. Europe is the European Union. The future of the European Union is connected to the future of Africa. If Europe will be safe, Africa has to be safe. Africans has to be safe. If Europeans will be thriving and will have livelihoods, African has to be livelihoods, because we cannot build walls on the Mediterranean, or we don't want to build walls. So the whole idea is that why Europe is investing so much in Africa. Well, not investing in Africa would create, first of all, and I think this is not a lot touched by officials, is the migrational flows. It will have lots of migrational flows towards Africa and towards Europe. And the only way to stop this is for the people to have livelihoods, to have jobs, and to have a thriving life, because nobody leaves their country because they are willing to. They don't have any. And of course, there is an economic partnership. Africa is the biggest. European Union is the biggest commercial and trade partner of Africa, and there are a lot of commercial interests in that. And of course, the third part, there is historical, the former colonies of a few of the European Union member states. And actually, this is a little bit from a cultural perspective that will go later. It's a little bit of an issue, let's say. It's like I always, when I spoke a lot with Romanian startups, I'm always pushing them. Is like Africa is the new ground of investing. Is 9% economic increase for the last 15 years, even during the financial crisis, they were growing. Digitalization is the new boom, the new buzzword in Africa. There is no single country in Africa that is not preparing now a digital transformation strategy, that is not working on There are 620 startups, in startup hubs, let's say, right now in Africa. There is a growing investment from venture capital and angel investors inside Africa. And of course, we have numbers like Africa has become the global leader on mobile payments in the world. You have to touch upon the idea that when half of the Kenyan GDP is transaction via M-Pesa, that is a big thing. And what they discovered in Africa is what is called frugal innovation. How can you innovate with low resources? And how you can do innovation and digital innovation for social benefit group good, let's say. And for example, when you have an economy that is with a big inflation, and you go and you pick up your salary, and you need 2 big bags to pick up your salary, of course you'll have an M-Pesa, and everybody for safety reason will pay via M-Pesa. Look at the e-commerce. It's around $19 billion right now. It's growing 17% each year. The e-commerce industry. So what is going on right now in Africa is absolutely amazing, and that's why the European Union is investing, because on one hand we are seeing that digitalization is producing a lot of positive effects. It's like Africa has the youngest population on the planet. There are 1.2 billion people right now. There will be 2.5 billion by 2030, and that is, on one hand, that is a challenge for many countries to have such a young population, and a lot, let's say the unemployment rate is pretty high. But at the same time, if you are investing in digitalization, imagine the opportunities that you are creating. So that's why you are seeing right now in Africa a Smart Africa Alliance that is building a lot of projects. Africa is moving very fast. It's called the leapfrogging effect, because they have no legacy, especially, for example, on e-government services. They have no legacy of something that was previous there in place. They can jump to the latest technology. And you spoke about the Estonians. Estonians have understood that a long time ago, and they're heavily investing in Africa. They have a strong diplomatic push towards African governments. And we can see that, for example, they interconnected the registries in Nigeria. They discovered overnight 60,000 ghost workers. People that they did not exist. Actually, they were receiving money from the government that they were not existing in reality. So that is millions a year that they are like, it's not spent by the government on this. So they understood this, and the European Union has understood this, and the European Union has understood something else. When you see China investing in data centers in Africa, when you see that they are controlling a lot of the infrastructure, when you see that now they are moving towards safe city, when you see they are putting millions of CCTV cameras equipped with AI technology, and they are exporting the social scoring system towards Africa, that is a security threat. So that is why Europe is investing in Africa, and we should invest. So I mean, this is a call for all the startups. That is a market. It's hard to invest. It's very risky, but that is the purpose of a startup, no? Is to take risky adventures. So then go and invest, because there is a lot of room and there is a lot of money available, not only from the European Union, but the World Bank is putting a few billions as well on the table. So, and the USAID, I don't know, Donald Trump has slashed the budget of USAID, but I don't know how much is that. But hello, Filip, there is like, I think you
not much
concur with me.
It's not
that much, no?
So I have a question for you. I agree with you on Africa, but the power of China and the activities of China in Africa is tremendous. How do you think European Union can? I'm not talking about US. It's not on the level with China for sure. How does European Union compare to the really strong presence of China for decades?
Well, it's very simple. It's like, in real terms, the European Union is investing more than China in Africa, much more. We have, I don't work there anymore, but the European Union has free grants. 90 billion euros are free money. When China comes to Africa, they come with loan, and usually that loan comes with a small typing there saying that if you don't pay in 5 years, I will get your port. So do you think that the Africans understand that very well? It's like, of course, they are willing to receive a lot of Chinese money, but they are not fools. They are not fools. So I think they are looking towards Europe. They are looking towards US for investment. But of course, we need to have the instruments, because if it takes 2 years to approve a project, because you have a lot of bureaucracy, when China just comes and signs immediately, then that is the issue.
But sorry.
Thank you very much, Daniel. And you know already that I'm also a big advocate of Marco.
Yeah, just a short question, because
Please.
trying to reinforce Filip's question. I was in China at the end of 2018, and the Digital Road initiative, the belt initiative that they have, it's amazing. It's not just investment, it's also a complete ecosystem. It's real that with just investment, you can fight that. No, I don't want to talk about fight. You can strategy because it's very strong. It's not just investment, it's a whole ecosystem.
Yes, I believe that the European Union has more diplomatic push than China, even if that is not seen.
I wanted to jump in here and just say one thing that emphasizes everything that Daniel has been telling us about the importance of Africa for the European Union. The first official visit of our new president of the European Commission was in Africa. That was her first ever visit as in this capacity as a president of the European Commission. And since then, a lot of things have happened, and there is a lot of acceleration between the European Union and the African Union, which is basically a model, a replicated model of the European Union. And from a political point of view, I think that, as Daniel was highlighting, it's obvious that they are looking towards Europe more than they are looking towards anybody else. And this is something that we have to leverage on, of course, in terms of business as well.
Great. I'm sorry, I love this conversation. Very strategic. I love it. Thank you.
Thank you, Marco, for the remark. And some of you know already, and Daniel knows for sure, we talked about our interest as Romanian industry into Africa, and the fact that actually we are a bit present already there since last year with some pilot projects. We've also, as Cluj IT Cluster, have organized our economic mission in 3 countries in East Africa last year, in autumn of last year. And while we know a bit about the market of Africa, I would like you, Daniel, to tell us, you've said about the market being a very good ground for, let's say, courageous startups who would come from Europe or from other places, maybe from Chile, into the African market. But what advice would you give to a startup who does not know much about Africa? Where exactly to go and what exactly to do there?
Well, first we should understand, and we should how big is the African continent, because it's not very well positioned. You know, it's like the surface proportionally on the globe on a map that you are looking. Only DRC is almost the size of the entire European Union. Yeah, the Congo DRC. People, when are looking towards Africa, they see one thing, and there is not one thing. There are 54 countries, but even inside the countries, there is a lot of diversity. For example, Nigeria has 180 languages that they speak. This is the result of the colonies cutting borders and putting borders in place over like a long time ago. But you should look towards, you should understand that Africa is not an easy place to do business. For example, the World Bank Ease of Doing Business report, you can look that Africa is at the bottom of it's like the African country, but they are starting in last years to grow very fast. They are jumping a lot of places inside this. And why is hard to do business? Well, sometimes the justice system does not work properly. So, for example, how you can enforce a contract if something does not go well. So always, as my previous speakers have told you, what you need is a national champion. The national champion can come depending on the size of the project, either from the side of the government for big projects. For example, I was working on the identification system of Nigeria, and it was the vice president that was in charge of that. Either for smaller projects, you need a local champion or local partner there that understands very well the environment that you are working in. So countries that you can work everywhere. But of course, there are the front runners. South Africa I will not put in the same category as the other countries, but Rwanda, that Daniel you saw the level of determination on digitalizing the country is amazing actually, and that is also pushed politically by the president. I would advise Ghana, that is amazing place to go, and I will advise Senegal. I will advise Kenya, and of course, everybody looks towards Nigeria. That is an important, huge market, but it's very difficult to do business there. But if you succeed there, it's gold for any company that can work in Nigeria.
Very much, Daniel, and to that, from our direct experience in doing business in Africa, as you mentioned, there are funds there. There are money from the European Union, but not only from the European Union. Actually, my view of it is that Africa is flooded with money from all over the places. It's just that, there is a sort of a bit of a vicious cycle in terms of how these are spent, because money is available. However, in order to be available, they have to be put to good use. And the people on the ground might not all the time understand how to formulate the problem so that they get the fund. So maybe even into this respect, let's say we as a more experienced IT business culture we could have, but going through the various funding that exists from the European Union, from UN, from GIZ, from other places, finding a local partner, helping the local partner get into the project together with the local government, that would be the entry ticket. Because the trick thing is that all the tenders that are put out there, and there are full of them, you can find, everybody can find them, request regional experience, regional experience. So how could you get regional experience if you're not entering first into this way? So that's a sort of a potential answer to a start. Let's say how somebody.
That's why you need people like me, So.
Exactly. Right. So I would move to another part of the world, and Filip, I would like you to talk to us about the perspective of the Central Asia. How is it? Well, I've heard that it's growing, but how is actually moving along towards what goal? And it's the same as we talk with the other macro regions. It's also Central Asia is not a country. There are quite many of them. So what would be the perspective of growth and also the perspective of, let's say, our IT industry, of the Chilean IT industry to move to Central Asia?
Like I said, I think you're right. Obviously, Central Asia is not a one country. It's 5. They're very unique. Obviously, they have their own ecosystems. But I think you can regionalize some of them. You have a chance to work with a company from one country and a couple of more countries. Kazakhstan is a bit more forward on a higher level. Uzbekistan is coming quickly. They're very reform-oriented. A lot of FDIs coming in. Kyrgyzstan is now having a revolution. They're very democratic, but their IT sector is quite vibrant. Tajikistan, Turkmenistan are quite nascent. Turkmenistan is a bit more closed, but all of them have great opportunities. A lot of it, most of them are maybe like, our region 10 years ago, maybe 12, something like that. A lot of opportunities. And like I said, you have that historical connection with that region. The other thing is what I always promote, and with Andrei, we are involved in the 3B ICT network, which is a network of clusters and associations from the Balkans to the Black Sea to the Baltics. There's always collaborative efforts that can happen. Together you can attract different third markets through Central Asia. Central Asia is in between Russia, China, Afghanistan, and Iran. All of those are markets that can be attack through there. Maybe not the main hubs like the big cities in China or Russia. There's other big cities in those countries. They do business with Afghanistan and Iran, which is, you never think about those things, but it's possibilities. They do a lot of business with India as well. So that's another way of going to third markets, whether it's for Chile or our region. So, there's opportunities everywhere. The interesting thing and the connection with Eastern Europe is the language, that a lot of people know Russian. Obviously, most people know Russian there, or the business language is Russian. And a lot of people in Eastern Europe still know Russian. And I think that connection you can build on it, do business within Central Asia, but also with the neighboring countries as well.
Filip, you're making a very interesting point that Central Asia can actually be a bridgehead for a much larger market, something that I didn't think before. So on one hand, the market is itself, and on the other, as an expansion pad for the others. And I'm thinking in this respect that maybe Chile is the same for as a bridgehead for South America.
It's building on your network and your connections. Wherever you find the right connection, you can use it for a bridge to something else. Right here, you have a number of people that can link you up to a certain region. Then you have to utilize those. Like Cluj is, for example, for Chile, for the whole Eastern European region. Through Cluj, you can get to, through this network, you can get to the Baltics, to the Balkans, and to Caucasus or whatever else. The network is connected to Greece and to Turkey as well, through all of our personal networks that extends beyond this network. I am from this network as well. I'm one of the guys that worked on it, but now I'm in Central Asia. So the way you utilize your connections is important. And like Marco said, for now we know Marco, and he knows all of South and Central America, basically. So, through him, you can find a whole bunch of other good people that you can do business with. Smaranda knows China. So if that's a connection, you should use that one. But you never know. China is a huge, like she said, there's so many countries within China. So through Central Asia, you can contact another part of China, which is developing tremendously. I mean, there's development everywhere. Russia is huge. It doesn't mean you have to do business only in Moscow. You can do other parts of Russia, etc., etc. So utilizing your network the right way is quite important, and how you partner with other organizations, other countries, etc., is also important. And it's that friendship that you develop and that can lead into a business cooperation.
Thank you very much, Filip. And with that, I will encourage also our online audience to ask questions to the panelists through the chat. And until they do, I will go to Andrei and build on what Filip said about the importance of the networking. So, of course, the first step to build a business relation is to know people. And you, Andrei, together with Filip, you've been building this 3B ICT network of IT clusters that Filip has talked about. We have connections in the region, in the southeast region of Europe. However, as far as I know, at least, we do not have that much economic exchange or partnership in terms of IT. How is that, and what can we do about it? Because we are probably all in about the same situation in relatively small markets, internal markets. How can we get out of this paradigm?
Yes, Daniel, you're absolutely right. We should do more, and Filip already mentioned some of the things that we are at least trying at this point to build on the relationships that we have, the personal networks, the business networks that we all have access to. But I have to admit that we have not been doing this very consistently and in a strategic manner. I think this is what we are lacking as a business network that goes from Baltic Sea down to the Black Sea. We started this idea originally at least, with the intention to create more awareness, especially on European level, about the IT industry here in this macro region. And I would say to some extent we have managed to do this, especially since we connected with Brussels, with the Digital SMEs Alliance, where we are members. So our network is a member of the Digital SMEs Alliance. And you've seen this morning in our conference, for those of you who have been around, a small conversation with Sebastiano Tofaletti, who is the General Secretary of this organization, umbrella organization in Brussels. This is one thing, a small thing that we have achieved. But on the business side, we haven't done much, and there is a lot of potential of business between us, but also on creating business opportunities for us, using or leveraging the capacities or the complementarities that we have between our networks and between our countries. It's a matter of synergy from my perspective. It's a matter of how we present ourselves, how we participate on the international, let's say, stage. And for that, I think we need more focus. We need more energy, and obviously we need some resources to put behind this effort. And then I'm absolutely sure that we will see results, because there is obviously something that, it's just a matter of organizing ourselves and putting our minds to it, and we will be there.
Just to add a little bit to what Andrei was saying, I absolutely agree with him. And I think tackling the third markets jointly with our friends and neighbors and things like that is quite important, and you'll be stronger that way. One thing is, you asked how come we're not doing business between each other, and I think I talked about this in our call last week, is because we know everything about Germany, but we don't know anything about our neighbor. Basically, that's your reply to anything. We usually don't know anything about our neighbor, but we perfectly know the markets of China or Germany or, US or something like this. That's the problem. We just need to know more about each other and where the opportunities are there.
I acknowledge that. And I think we should do more to get to know each other better, to know our capacities, what are, what we can do together, what we cannot do together, because there are things that we will not be able to do together. So yeah, we need to think of this in a more strategic way, as I said, at least within the 3B ICT network, and hopefully we will find the right answers how to go on.
So I like very much, Andrei, the point that you raised regarding the strategic approach. And let's say into this direction, maybe the systemic approach that each of the countries and each of the industry need. And maybe there is an opportunity in the fact that while Filip says that, yes, we know the market or the private market of Germany better than we don't know that of Bulgaria from Romania, for example. On the other hand, we also know that in the respect of the digitalization of the institutions or the state, we are about in the same place. Not so far, that means. So that might be something that could unite us, because it's clearly that either we develop the capacity to digitalize our own countries, or the Americans will come to do it for us. And we might have the capacity. I don't have nothing against the Americans. It's just that we see here the opportunity of doing it.
Could be the Chinese. No, it doesn't have to be Americans.
Well, it's good if the American, but not to be the Chinese, actually.
So I don't know. Maybe Smaranda would know about the culture of the Chinese in relation of them getting out. We know and we see them in Africa, in infrastructure and in loaning and so on. I didn't see them that much into IT or the Chinese entrepreneurs moving around in the world. I didn't see that much. Is there a cultural trait that keeps them from doing what you see, Smaranda, what we are doing? I mean, jumping over the oceans and trying to build relations like this.
It's not necessarily cultural in terms of the specific industry of IT. It's more in generally the investment in China is heavily regulated, as I mentioned, at the governmental level. So the areas, as for foreign investments in China, I mentioned there are areas where foreign investment is encouraged, discouraged, or forbidden. They have the same for Chinese investment towards the other parts of the world. And their assessments are made yearly, and according to the plan of development at the national level, the Chinese government has guidelines for the sectors that are encouraged for investment, for Chinese outer investment, and the regions that the government would like to direct Chinese outer investment in. And even for a Chinese company, a Chinese entrepreneur who would like to just take their money or their expertise and go somewhere, it's not as simple as it is for us. The level of bureaucratic stages that an entrepreneur has to do in order to get out is complex, is changing every year according to the regulations that, they're constantly changing according to the area where the entrepreneur is. So this is an important aspect that has to be taken into consideration. And many times when you have visits from entrepreneurs coming here or looking for investing in different areas, they are coordinated at a governmental level, whether it's a national or local level. So then the areas that come are the areas of highest priority. And you've mentioned before the Belt and Road Initiative. So basically, what are the areas of priority? That's the area where you will see most investments coming out of China. That doesn't mean that you can't see it in every industry, including IT, but you see it more in areas of infrastructure, you see it more in energy and so on. But it's surely a challenge for us to interact or attract us as, for example, Romanians working with Chinese investors. There are cultural aspects to take into consideration, and this was big, like going from the governmental regulations, but coming to customs and the cultural differences. I have seen so many mistakes being done. I have seen ambassadors being disrespected with the best of intentions. I have seen a lot of mistakes being done at the smallest level when investors do come in, or where they are here. There's the cultural differences are so high. There's aspects of hierarchy and power distance that are so strong and so embedded in the culture and so different from Romania, for example, that makes it easy for us to make mistakes without knowing. And if we don't know how to organize ourselves in receiving potential investors, we might, just having a common interest might not be enough. So going into a more in-depth understanding of the culture is important, and would be a takeaway for either attracting investment here or going towards China is your business cannot just be translated for Chinese partners. You can't just translate your business and go there. Everything has to be localized. So it has to go in depth, and your approach has to be individualized for the Chinese market. I think that would be my main takeaway.
Thank you very much, Smaranda. And you're actually opening a chapter on the culture perspective, and you also mentioned on the mistakes that can be done and things that can be avoided. And maybe I would extend it also things that should be done. And I would like to propose you a round of table for each of you from your own region to say, if somebody like a foreign companies comes to your country and wants to open up business, or to the countries in which you're specialized and wants to open up business, what would be the cultural aspects that they should be careful about, they should know, and then they should avoid. And I will start with Chile, with Marco.
Daniel, before we go into this section, just a little comment on what Smaranda was saying related to the way in which the Chinese understand expansion, business expansion. We have seen numerous delegations that have come to Romania, and Cluj included here. Not single one was without governmental officials. Actually, each delegation was led by a governmental official. And as one of the comments says here in the chat, because I was following this too, they don't move in small steps. They always move in large scale projects, large steps. And this is something fundamentally different from how we Europeans approach business. And that's, again, it's going back to cultural differences. This is something that divides us, I think, significantly, and we have to understand this very, very, and approach this very, very carefully. And one other thing, it's more on the political issue. I think the perspective of the Chinese wanting to come to Romania, for example, is getting more and more, or less and less probable, I would say, since we are closer now to the US and the EU, of course, as part of the European Union. So that was my comment that I wanted to address, also because I was following the discussion in the chat.
Thank you very much, Andrei. So China is a complex topic from one point to another, either as we are going there or as we see it coming to any place. And before we move to the cultural aspect, actually, we have questions from the audience, and I would give it to Daniel and to Filip as well. How can the European Union improve its integrated approach from a strategic level in order to attract more investment, more business development to either Africa and Central Asia? So, Daniel, if you want, how could it attract business?
So, the first thing that I try to do inside the European Commission is, you have to understand that I think the EU and US are the only ones who are respecting some accounting principles, meaning you have all this money, you go there, you have to do a tender, and if you have a Chinese company that is winning the contract because they are cheaper, you have to give it to them. So I totally disagree with this principle. Actually, in reality, I don't know, Filip, he knows better, but I was looking at what USAID is financing in Africa, and I see that it's only US companies that are taking the tenders. So the first principle that I have is the EU money goes only to European Union companies, in part, or African owned. But this is, as Filip has just wrote on the chat, it's very complicated because a Chinese company integrated, incorporated under the European law is a European company by European law standards. So we need the change of legislation here, and I think that is happening. We are seeing what is happening with 5G. We have a lot of initiatives right now at the level of European Union to clarify this aspect. What is European owned and not European owned? So I think this is the first thing that I will do. All the public money that goes out there, it has to be built in partnership with the European Union company. Second aspect that I will do, if European Union businesses, let's say, want to go to Africa, is to try to coordinate better. And you're speaking here about the Estonians. So you need to offer integrated services in Africa. You cannot go with peanuts. Or you can go, but it will not be a lot. So I was promoting that a lot of companies can join together in alliances or consortiums, as we are discussing at the European Union level, to offer integrated services in Africa. funneled or like pushed by European diplomatic power, and this is happening right now. Another thing that I try to do is always telling the companies, always the first time you go to an African country, please visit the European Union ambassador there. And because that will be a strong support for you in doing business in that country, because not a lot of companies know that besides the country ambassador, Romania does not have ambassadors everywhere in Africa, but besides the country ambassador, you have a European ambassador that actually is very influential in deciding where your interest inside that company. So these are just a few of the issues that we can go. Of course, we can discuss about having a local partner, because this is, I told you, this is very important. Knowing somebody, doing networking, knowing somebody in the government. There are a multitude of issues, but you just need courage, and you have to be smart about how do you invest and what solution do you offer on that. And most importantly, you have to be present at the table. You just cannot hop in and hop out from this process anytime you want. You have to be processed in Brussels. There is we launched the Digital Co-Development Hub that is gathering a lot of companies, the big companies, but actually small. The Estonians are part of this D4D Hub, for example. And you have to be present at the table. You have to be a part of the debate, and when the opportunity comes, you have to just take it.
Daniel, it's a very broad topic, and we could go forever into this and public policy which goes with that, and so on. But since we are approaching to the end of our session, just for the last let's say hopefully 5 minutes that we have together, I would like to go to the round of the table very short. What an entrepreneur for a foreign culture should pay attention when it comes to yours. Marco.
Okay, thank you. Well, first of all, we are not all the same in Latin America. It's like, for example, and excuse me, Smaranda, but if you say that Chinese, Japanese, and Korean are the same people, no, absolutely not. Okay, I'm sorry to be so rude for you, but that it's the same for Latin America. Colombian, Peruvian, Filip maybe can share with us his experience. The second one is that Latin America, I told you, it's divided in two: Brazil and the rest of the world. Brazil, Portuguese, and the rest of Latin America, Spanish. The other one is the importance to have a local partner, especially for business procedures, cultural aspects. We are not always in constant party and drinking alcohol, okay? That's part of the folklore of the States for Latin America. Also try to find the multilateral companies that now we have. We have very strong economic groups with investments in different areas of the economy. Some of them are based in Chile, a few of them, and then it's easier to move to other countries. And last but not least, Chile is a very good partner for you to make business. We're one of the most open countries around the world. We have the largest number of free trade agreements active, also named as economical partner agreements, and we signed it on June of this year, the first digital economic partner agreement with New Zealand and Singapore. It's been approved by our parliament on next month, but it's interesting because it gives you a base to make business. So you can find good partners here in Chile. We're not so easy also. Business environment is always not easy, but you will have legal stability. We have some topics that are happening in our country. Every country has part of his story, but think on that, Chile as a platform for other countries. And remember, it's very important in Latin America in general to have a local partner, just like.
Thank you very much, Marco, and we are looking forward to visit you as soon as the pandemic allows. I will move to Filip to tell us what should we pay attention when we come to Central Asia from the, let's say, cultural point of view.
Like I said, Russian is a must. I think drinking tea is a must, a lot. I think the Central Asia is a mixture of kind of Soviet and Asian, Middle Eastern Asian kind of cultures. Very aromatic food, very great food. The business culture is more towards the Soviet culture and the European culture, so in most of the countries. So I think it would be quite comfortable for Eastern European companies to go there. No drinking, like Marco said. I don't agree with no drinking, though. You have aguardiente there, palinka and tsuika in Romania, and mutai in China. So you got to do what you got to do business, and I think that should be on the table. Central Asia, you just drink a lot of tea. So
sorry, Filip. We like party and alcohol, but not all day.
No. I'm kidding.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Filip. And thanks for putting up the fact that we are actually not so far away culturally from the Central Asia. However, with the Russian, we still have to take care, because that we might not know, too many of us. Daniel, when we go to Africa, what should we take care of? Even though it's 54 countries, but take it in general. Is there like a African culture that we could account for?
I was always facing this because, of course, there is an attitude towards the former colonies. I actually experienced that from many of the startups. But I always said is like, look, I'm a Romanian. I'm not part of that discussion. I come here with with good intentions. But I think the most important thing in Africa is not to be condescending, not to tell them that you know better, that you are coming from a more developed country, that you will teach them what to do. No, there is a strong movement for African-made solutions right now, and you have to just support that process. If you go there, if you are not a big company that has a lot of power, let's say, and you want to do business there, you just have to see, how do you support a local-made, let's say, process in this, and don't be condescending. I think this is the general part. Of course, then you have the Anglophone Africa, you have the Francophone Africa, you have different particularities at national level. It's hard to say exactly what is there, but of course, there are happy people. There's so much sun in Africa that people are happy. This is something this is why I love being there. When I have the chance and be part of that happiness. Be part of the sun and be part of the energy. There is such an extraordinary energy on the digital sector right now in Africa. Is so motivating to be part of it.
Much, Daniel, and I could concur that Africa is dynamic and full of life and full of warmth, human warmth everywhere. It's just that in some parts it's easier to do business than in others. But Africa is an experience as a whole. And Smaranda, just for our final minutes, I think, tell us please at least about one thing that we should avoid when we come to do business in China.
Thank you. I think one important thing is don't be impatient. Don't expect things to happen instantly. You've had 2 meetings and things are going to start working perfectly. Relationships are the cornerstone of good partnerships in China, and relationships in China take time and dedication. And I think this is one of the most important things. And be open and come to me for 5 weeks training courses before going to China. Yeah, be patient. That's, I think, one of the important things.
Thank you very much, Smaranda, and thank you very much all of our panelists. I think it was an interesting session where we've exchanged a lot of ideas, and hopefully it was of some help for our audience. And I think that with the diversity that we represent, we are actually through discussion itself, helping building more bridges and developing more relations and more business for the future. So thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, the audience, for listening to us, and see you soon in various places of the world.
Cluj Innovation Days 2020 is part of the Future Skills lifelong learning program. The project is co-financed from the European Social Fund through the Human Capital Operational Program 2014-2020.